Welcome to Art for All Ages Online. Today we're going to give you a very specific instructional video for you to be able to learn how to use a brush. Oh my, this nasty little thing here. This has been the problem, the bane of our existence, this brush. We've been having lots and lots of fun with our program, teaching you all how to use our favorite object, the sponge, which has been really cool because people have been able to do a lot of wonderful things with this sponge. In fact, you can do 90 to 100% of all of our paintings with just this sponge. But there are a few of our paintings that need a small amount, just a small amount of brush work, maybe 5 to 10%. This instructional video is specifically designed to show you what I call the secrets of how to use a brush. I've got to tell you, I went to art school for years and years and years, and not a single person in any one of my art classes ever said, hey, by the way, here's how you use a brush. I don't know, I think they guessed that we all knew how to use a brush. But there are some really cool secrets, and we're going to show them to you today. Even you can master the small 5 to 10% that's needed to use a brush in our program. What we're going to do is we're going to show you that this is our paper that we use for our program. You can find it on our website. And we're going to go ahead and just simply take a clean sheet of that paper. You always want to make sure that you're not using the smooth side of the paper, but you're using the rough side of the paper. Just some general information. By the way, this whole program does not matter whether you're using the largest brush in your arsenal or you're using the smallest brush in your arsenal. These rules apply to all brushes that are what we call watercolor round brushes. Now, it also does not matter what color you use, but for argument's sake, we're going to mix up the Payne's Gray, which is really dark, because you'll be able to see it on the surface here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to show you a very cool thing about this brush. It's kind of like the lift move that we utilize with the sponge, and we've talked about that in our other videos, okay? If you take this brush and you push down and you drag it across the page and you don't change anything, the line will be boring and blah, just straight down. But if, and here's the catch, if when you push the brush down, as you drag it across the page, you slowly lift the pressure. Aha, there's the key word, pressure. It's all about the pressure. If when you push down and you drag it, you lift the pressure slowly, the line will go from very, very thick and it will taper down to very, very thin. That's the secret about using a brush. So let's take a look at it. We'll show you how it works. Again, we're using the Payne's Gray, and what we're going to show you is if we just simply push down and pull with the brush, we don't have any change of the line. It is boring and blah, it just goes down. Now, if however we take that brush and we push down, and as we pull, we lift the pressure, look what happened. The line went from thick and it tapered down to thin. In some of our art class videos, you have seen what I like to do is turn the painting upside down. There's a reason for that. This is the reason. Let me show you. You will notice that what I'm doing is I am putting the brush down and I am simply pulling it towards myself and lifting the pressure to make it go thin. If I had to do the same thing in this direction, oh my stars, look at how my angling of my hand is bent. I'll show you again here. Look, if I had to pull up on the brush, look how uncomfortable that angle is for my wrist. Watch this. If I turn the painting upside down, all I have to do is pull the brush down. Just pull that brush nice and easily down the page. It's so simple. and again by lifting the pressure. Now, one of the things we talk about in our videos about painting trees is something that we say we want to avoid. And we want to avoid this like the plague. It's what we call the devil's pitchfork. I'll go ahead and do that again to get a little longer of a line. There we go. The devil's pitchfork is this. When you put your branch on the tree, it goes off to one side. But if you take the next branch and you put it across from it on the same side, look what you have. The devil's pitchfork. This is what we want to avoid. This does not look natural. And yet so many people, when they go to paint trees, this is the shape they end up with. It's not a good idea. There's an easy way to avoid the devil's pitchfork. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and plant the tree here, and we'll pull up with that nice soft lifting motion to get it to go from thick to thin. Now, when you plant your branch, you want to put it over here. When you go to put the next branch, you do not want it directly across from the other branch. You want to put it either above that branch or below that branch. Watch what we're going to do. One over here, one over here. Well, look at that. This looks far more natural than the devil's pitchfork. This is what we want to avoid, and this is what we want to do. Just alternating every other makes it look far more natural. And when you go to branch off other branches here, the same rule applies. You don't want to put another branch directly there. You want to alternate so that it's every other. Again, that will be a far more natural looking branching of your tree. Now, we've kind of given you a few basic ideas here. Let's get a clean piece of paper and show you a few more things. In some of our art classes, especially the one that is the very first #1 painting, we talk about people asking us that basic standard question. Steve, how do you paint trees? My answer is always, why? And they say, no, I'm asking you a question. How do you paint trees? And my answer is always, why? Would you like to see why? Let me show you why. When you go to plant your tree, you're going to utilize that same motion to start thick and to get thin. But if you're looking for a natural looking tree, you can start with the letter Y. This is the letter Y. And this is why we highly recommend that you start with this shape to paint your trees. Then when you go to branch off the rest of your branches, you follow that same rule to stay away from the devil's pitchfork, and you alternate every other branch on either side of the branching, and look what you have. You have tiny, tiny little Ys that are created. All trees have one key rule. They must be thicker at the bottom and they must be thinner at the top. This is why we teach you that trick, to push down with the brush and pull up to create a line that starts thick and goes thin. Even if you're going to start with a straight branch of a tree like this, you're still, when you go to branch it off, you're going to follow the rule to keep it thicker at the bottom, thinner at the top, and again, avoiding the devil's pitchfork. If your branches cross over each other, that's not a problem. But you'll notice as I reach for the sky and branch off my branches, not only are they little tiny Ys over and over again, but you're also finding that these branches here are thinner than the ones at the bottom. If it turns out that you didn't get this part thinner and this part is too thin down here, you can always come back here and broaden up the base. The reason is because you want to make sure that the base holds the weight of the tree. If you ended up with a really thick branch over here, see, this tiny branch there is not going to hold the thickness of that. You're going to have to come back into the tree and broaden up that branch and then taper it off so it thins out like we've been talking about. There, see, now that branch will now hold the thickness of all those other branches at the top. Sometimes in our program, we also create what are called, well, bonsai trees. That's what I call them, bonsai trees. And for a bonsai tree, you want to think of me. Why? Well, no, not really me. What you want to think about is the letter S for Steve. That's my name, Steve. And I can show you that either an S or a backwards S creates some of the best bonsai trees. Let me show you what we're talking about. Again, we're going to use a small brush to demonstrate this, but you can do the same with a large brush if you want. Now, what we're talking about is we're going to want a bonsai tree. Now, if I was going to create the bonsai tree, I start by pushing down really hard, and I'm going to create this S shape. It's not a perfect S as you would write someone's name, but it is kind of like an S shape. And you'll notice I want to be able to get the bottom of the S thicker than the bottom. Now, once that is created and you have that S shape, we want to go back to the Y shape rule for the rest of the branching of the trees. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to create other tiny little Y shapes within that bonsai, and this gives us more of a bonsai shape for the tree rather than the Y shape that we started off with for the others. This is more of a bonsai shape. Okay, so there's another aspect to painting trees. Now we're going to get another clean piece of paper, and we're going to talk about birds. Oh boy, this is a fun one. Birds are a little bit more complicated, but you can make it easy or complicated. Birds are a little bit more complicated, but you can make it as easy or as complicated as you like. Let me show you a few of the tricks of the trade that I like to do. First of all, before I even pick up the brush, I want to discuss with you your hand, and in particular, this side of the palm of your hand. This side of the palm should be squarely, firmly planted onto your paper. That's the number one rule. Now I'll pick up the brush, and what I want to do is I want to create small little arcing motions with the brush. Now while I'm doing that small little arcing motion with the brush, there's a second thing that I want to do. I've got my palm firmly planted onto the paper, but you'll notice I can also do a rocking motion here like this with my wrist, which allows me to get either further away from the paper or to get closer to the paper. And what I'm going to do is, as I'm doing this arcing motion, I'm going to slowly turn in my wrist until I finally touch the paper at its softest point, and oh, there it is. You can probably barely see it. I'll do it again. There, see? And that tells me the pressure of how light I need to make this bird. Now, sometimes when people make birds, they will make birds like this. There's nothing wrong with that. This works fine. Again, the key rule is that they are thicker here at the base of the bird, and they are thinner as they get out to the outside rim. However, for my personal taste, this is not the kind of bird I would put into my painting. I would actually put in a bird with that same effect that I taught you a second ago, but I would do it like this. Notice how it's a shallow form of the bird that they are gliding upon the wind. This is, as far as an artistic version of the bird, this is far more attractive than the V. I don't know what you would call this shape of bird here that's gliding on the wind, but this is the shape that I think is more attractive than the V. Or if you want, use a combination thereof. It's your painting, you can decide. But basically, that planting of the firm palm on the hand onto the painting, and then just getting that soft arcing motion will give this to you. Now I can paint birds like this all day long because I did what? Because I practiced. And I've practiced for many years. it will take you a little practice. I highly recommend that you get a blank sheet of paper like we just did here, and you practice your birds maybe off to the side of your painting or on another clean sheet of paper that you can see what you want to get for a feel before you actually put your brush to your actual painting. There's one other thing I want to share with you about your brush. Getting your brush to a point. Well, how do we make this point? A long time ago, they used to teach art students in school to take the brush and do this. Put it in their mouth. Put it in their mouth. And pull it out of your mouth so it became to a nice crisp point. I gotta tell you, that's a bunch of garbage. And it's horrible. It's horrible if you're gonna utilize that type of technique with a cadmium paint, which is not so healthy for your mouth, shall we say. I have another trick. Let me show you how it's done. We're gonna move the palette onto the painting here. And there are some things that you need to understand. And I want you to first, well, we'll take this off. I want you to see what I'm going to do here. See my thumb? See how I am rolling the brush between my thumb and my index finger? This is the secret to bringing your brush to a point without putting it into your mouth. Now we'll put the palette over onto the area here that you can see what we're doing. Now, some people do this. That's not going to bring your brush to a point. Some people do this. That's great for mixing the paint, but it won't bring your brush to a point. I mean, like, look at that. That's horrible. What we want to do is roll the brush into the paint. When we roll the brush, oh my stars. Let's pull that out of there and take a look here now. See? You can just move. Now, what I'm doing here is a little bit more advanced. We talked about simply pushing the brush down and pulling it up and lightening up the pressure so that it goes from thick to thin. What we're doing now is that same principle, but we are moving the brush in a lot of angular and curvy ways, and also manipulating the pressure, which is far more difficult. But if you're looking to be able to learn how to control the brush, you want to be able to get it to go from thick to thin. See here? From thick to thin. From thick, and it thins out. That's by curving the brush and moving it, and also altering the pressure. This is far more advanced, but it is part of the lesson that you need to know about how to use a brush. We hope this video has been helpful. It's part of our free selections, part of Art for All Ages online, so that you can learn how to be an artist very simply from your home or wherever you find yourself. We hope that you join us again, and thank you for your time. Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoyed this video, check out our full library for more videos with our sponge painting system at artforallAgesOnline.com. Or if you're interested in live art classes for you or your community, check us out at artforallages.com. We wish you well in all your artistic endeavors. Thank you.